All right, welcome to lesson 13 of the Old West. This is the last video lesson. What we want to take a look at is how those three frontiers were able to expand the West and also the entrance of new states into the area. There are 7 new states that are formed during this time, actually 8. 8 new states that are formed from 1876, the end of Reconstruction, through 1890. So in 14 years, we have 8 new states. Colorado was formed in 1876. It was built around the mining industry that was happening in Colorado. But from 1888 to 1889, Congress admits 6 states, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Washington, Idaho, and Wyoming, to the Union. And they did so because a lot of northern Republicans had moved to that area. This was their way of balancing the Congress again between North and South, between Southern Democrats and Northern Republicans. But we're not looking at Northern and Southern divisions anymore. We're looking at the divisions between Democrats and Republicans. By forming these states, those Republicans were able to gain great majorities in the Congress. Utah was also admitted as a state in 1896 after it banned polygamy in 1890. And so we have all of these states being formed, a lot of new representatives going to Congress and a lot of new senators going to Congress in order to keep the South politically weak as much as they could. One interesting note is the last section of the country to be settled was Oklahoma. Like I said earlier, that's where we were taking all of those Native American tribes and eventually making reservations for them in that Oklahoma territory. When we push them onto those reservations in Oklahoma, that land then later became settled. And so the way that the United States government decided to do this was to have a land race. People lined up at the borders of the territory that was going to be open for settlement, and a gun was fired, and everybody would rush to grab a section of land. And the way that you grabbed that section of land was you registered with the land office before the land rush, and you were given a number. When you were given your number, you were given a flag. And then you would rush into Oklahoma, you would plant your flag on whatever territory that you wanted, and that became yours. And the territory separation was marked by little stakes. So you have these boomers. They were known because the gun went boom, and they would race during this land boom to go grab land in Oklahoma. You had people who cheated, though, in this land race, and they would sneak into the Oklahoma territory before the land race began, and they would find the best sections of land for themselves. Now, since they left before the race began, they were shot if they were ever found. That was in order to make sure that law was upheld and that there wasn't chaos. But those people who cheated in this race were called Sooners because they had left too soon. And so you have the Sooners and the Boomers. In 1907, Oklahoma becomes the Sooner state and enters the Union. And interestingly, in 1890, this is when you have the superintendent of the census declare that there is no more territory in the United States that can be considered uncivilized or frontier area. And so it's the end of the discernible frontier line in 1890 where we have almost everything settled by this point. Now, since there's no more settlement to occur, we're going to concentrate a lot on the changes in agriculture and the movement of people into the cities. And so during this time, we're going to take a look at a lot of the problems that are occurring with the farmers. One of the big problems was that with all of that grain being produced and all of that wheat being produced by farmers who are looking to take advantage of the economic conditions, is we have a surplus of grain. More grain is being produced than can be consumed, and so grain prices fall. Whenever we have too much of something, whenever we have a surplus, grain price, the price of that good falls. And so farmers are very much struggling to keep up with these prices, and they figure that as long as prices are down, the answer to that is just to make more, which instead brings prices down even further. And so we're going to look at, in the next few chapters, how farmers are able to help themselves. And one of the things that they do is they form trusts, they form cooperatives, so that all of the farmers in a given area can sell all of their land or all of their grain together for a fair and honest price. But really, the farmers are underrepresented politically, and they're very poorly organized. And so what we'll look at in future chapters is how they organize themselves.